Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? We are back with you for another episode. And no, as I'm saying this, we didn't do the fancy introduction. And Marlon was looking like, man, are we doing introduction? Hey, man, we're going to jump right into it, right? Man, this is the top of the new year. And we are so happy that we are, kicking it off with a bang, man. We have a phenomenal guest here with us today, and we're going to jump right into it today. Is that all right, Marlon? We jump right into it?
All right. Yeah, we do it. We'll jump into it. We'll jump into
it. Today we have none other than Yong-Soo Chung with us today, all the way from San Fran. So, man, we're crossing our continent here in North America. We are on the East Coast. He's over on the West Coast, man. And so, Yong-Soo, so happy to have you here with us. Welcome to the Success Journey Show.
Marlon and Ricky, thanks so much for having me. It's going to be fun.
Yes, sir. Yes,
absolutely, man. You guys wouldn't believe it. We've been talking now for over almost 30 minutes, and we almost forgot we were here for a podcast. We were just having so much fun talking and everything. So this is definitely going to be a great episode. We'll allow you guys into the conversation now, right? So, Yong-Soo, why don't you start off by just sharing just a little bit about yourself to our travelers and our listeners around the world?
All right. So I started my business in 2015. It all started with a company called Urban EDC Supply, and that company sells everyday carry gear. So things you carry on a daily basis, like your pen, your wallet, your pocket knife, flashlight, whatever you carry on a daily basis. So I kind of started with that niche, and then in 2018 we brought home a French bulldog, and somehow we were able to gain a big following on social media. So he's got over 150,000 followers on all social channels across all social. And so from there, we actually launched a dog boutique. And my wife and business partner, she's the one who manages the dog business. So we were actually invited down to LA for filming. Shopify invited us down to do a little shoot there. And that was really exciting because it was like a professional studio set and everything.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then in 2020, we launched a climate neutral certified third-party logistics company. So we partner up with other fast growing brands to help them with their shipping and fulfillment. And so that's kind of a new area that we got into. And then now I'm really excited to share that I have a new podcast called First Class Founders. And this is the podcast that I wish existed when I first started out on my entrepreneurial journey back in 2015. And so with First Class Founders, I'm just sharing all the knowledge and experiences and setbacks that I had so that, anyone who's listening can avoid those mistakes that I made. So,
man, that is loaded. Yong-Soo, man. I mean, you started from 2015, and today you have 4 different ventures that you have going on. When some people started in 2015 and don't even have that one that they started with in 2015, right? And 4 successful companies moving forward. But we have to ask the question. We started at 2015. What in the world happened 2014 or 2013 that made you say, you know what? I'm getting ready to go become a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I actually lived in New York for a couple of years before I moved out to San Francisco. But right towards the tail end of my New York era, I had the itch for startups, and I just couldn't find the community. This is in 2010, 2011. So I couldn't find a community in New York for startup community, right? So I decided to book a one-way ticket to San Francisco, and it was crazy because back in 2010, 2011, it was like we're still recovering from the Great Recession. And so,
My
parents thought I was crazy, right? Leaving a job. But ultimately, I really thought this was the right step for me in my progression in my career. So bought a one-way ticket. I knew only two people. I had a high school friend and I had a college friend. And I actually slept on the floor of my high school friend's place in Berkeley for 3 months on an air mattress. So I don't know if you guys ever slept on an air mattress for a very long time.
Yes.
Your back starts hurting like after a few days, right? So, So I did that for 3 months, and I was eating like burritos for lunch every day, and it was just I was looking for a job and an apartment at the same time, and it's really challenging because usually one kind of comes after the other, but doing both is not an easy thing. But I finally found an apartment and a job around the same time after those 3 months. And then I joined a startup, and that startup it was really exciting because it was, I guess you could consider like a hot startup. It was in the mobile advertising space. And so we went to a lot of events like South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And we actually had Coolio, the rapper.
Really?
He stayed with us. Yeah, rest in peace. He stayed with us at our rental unit. And so, one morning I was like just crashing on, again, air mattress on the living room floor of this Airbnb. And one morning I woke up and he was like sitting on the, dining room table. He was playing his own track on iTunes on his laptop, and he was like rapping to his own tracks. And it was insane to see like Coolio like just literally rapping to his own
Gangster's
tracks.
Paradise.
Exactly, right. And that was a crazy experience. I met like Mark Cuban and it was a really crazy time during those years. But then actually the company started kind of not doing as well. So I was actually laid off in 2013. And then I decided that the reason why I moved to San Francisco in the first place was to start my own company, hopefully meeting other, engineers, and I could find a co-founder or whatnot. So I went back to my roots and I was like, okay, why did I move here in the first place? I felt like I didn't know the engineering side well enough to be able to kind of, get involved. So I actually went to a software engineering boot camp for 12, 13 weeks. And this is like, 8 a.m. till 9 p.m., Monday through Saturday. Literally, you just eat, breathe, and sleep code. And so that was like a crazy, I learned so much. I learned more than I learned during my 4 years in college during those 12 weeks. It was insane.
Wow.
So after that, I was really, actually I had an interview. So at the end of this program, they match up, employers with potential, candidates for their company. And I had one interview, and I actually just bombed that interview. I literally went into the interview, and in the middle of the interview, they told me to leave because they didn't want to waste anyone's time. How bad can that get, right? So they kicked me out, and then I was like so devastated. I went back to the boot camp, and they had this like career advisory panel, and I just went to them. I was like, listen, I don't know what just happened. I feel like I just got run over by a truck or something. My confidence was like super low, and I was like, I have another interview with another company in 2 days. Like, how do I pick myself up from? I just got kicked out from an interview, right? So, they just told me, hey, listen, it's just one thing. It's just one company. You have another chance in 2 days. Just move on and prepare for that next one. And so that's what I did. So the next company was a company called Ripple, which is a blockchain crypto company. And so I got lucky here because they were actually looking for someone to build out like a trading platform for them. And when I was in New York, I was working as a trader at some financial institutions there. And so I kind of had that background already. And so they saw me and they thought, oh, this guy, he's got financial trading background, and literally they're looking for someone to build out a trading platform. And so that interview just went a lot smoother. And I was able to get in there, and I was an early employee there. And it was just about the time when they started hiring pretty rapidly. And so I got in like towards the early part of that rapid hiring phase. And so I joined in March 2014. And then I stayed there for about a year and a half. And I left the company September 2015 because we literally, there's a lot of regulation stuff happening at the time.
Yeah.
And
they wanted to regulate Ripple hard,
right? And so I was there, our team was actually starting to, we're working on a really exciting project. We were starting to move money on the XRP ledger. And it was super exciting for me because I was literally on the phone with like a remittance provider in Mexico. We were moving Mexican pesos and US dollars back and forth. And it was like, we were actually, before then, there was not a lot of like actual money moving through the system. But we were actually doing it. And I got really, really excited. But then the compliance team and the rest of the leadership team told us, hey, you got to stop because, we got to make sure that we're not going to get destroyed by financial regulation. And I totally get that now that when I look back on it. I mean, obviously it's so unpredictable to all the regulation stuff. But at the time we had so much momentum as a team, and our team was really scrappy. So, we were kind of like, we were working really hard. We finally got this to work, and then all of a sudden it's like shut down. And so I actually remember on a Friday, we actually, as a team, we went to go see a movie during the day. It was a Pixar movie. And I was like, I mean, it was a good movie. I love Pixar movies, right? But I don't know, it just felt really weird because it's like we were going so strong, and then we were just like, now we're going to go see a movie together. I feel like we're like little kids or something, right? So So after that, I decided to just go on my own. I didn't want any dependencies. And so part of the reason why I didn't stay in crypto to build out a product, it required a lot of like, I guess I would need to build out a team, right? So there's a lot more risk in terms of, technical risk, along with like regulatory risk. So there's a lot more, I guess, the risk was really, really high if I stayed in the crypto space. But I wanted to do something that it was just me. So I was accountable for the success, the failure, whatever. So I started Urban EDC. I launched it on October 9th, 2015. And I launched the shop, and I had built an audience of about 10,000 Instagram followers on an account. And when I launched it, I thought at least one person would buy something, right?
Yeah.
But it was like dead silent.
Yeah.
So I sent out a newsletter. It's dead silent.
Newsletter. Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is so weird. Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, should I regretted kind of leaving Ripple at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like by the way, my colleagues at Ripple thought I was insane for leaving crypto, which is hot, up and coming industry. And now I'm selling knives online, which made no sense to them. So I launched to Cricket, and actually I had a friend who was visiting me, and we were actually watching a Patriots football game at a Boston bar here in San Francisco. And he was asking, hey, just catching up, how's everything going? So I told him about the shop. And then later that weekend on a Sunday, he actually purchased something from the shop without telling me. And I was like, so like, grateful and humbled by the fact that, it's just my high school friend who was the first customer versus had 10,000 people who are supposedly interested in what I was doing, but no one bought anything. So yeah, that was kind of my entry into entrepreneurship.
Oh man. You know what's funny? I remember when I bought some Ripple because Bitcoin had just shot, right? It went to, I think, 8,000 at that time, right? 8,000 or whatever it was. And it went up to 2016, I think it went up to 18,000. And then Ripple was right behind. And I'm reading about Ripple, and Bank of America says, hey, we're going to start using Ripple. All these people start saying this because of, and somebody started explaining to me, like, listen, he says, how long does it take if you had a business deal in France and they said, send me $1 million in the next half an hour so we could close out this deal? How would you get $1 million to France? And I'm thinking, you can even wire, because the wire would take a substantial amount of time, and they're like, Ripple. And I was like, oh, snap, this is going to be the new thing. So I bought Ripple. I still have Ripple, actually. And, of course, the regulation, they went into that daggone long, drawn out, and it kind of killed the momentum. And then, FTX. I think not just Ripple at the thing of FTX, but I think all the
market. Yeah.
The market just went down and Ripple didn't shoot. But that's great I know somebody that was like at the start of it.
Yeah. Wow.
To that height. That was, I mean, that must have been a fun time. You just seeing, like, it was probably going at 100 miles an hour for you.
It was crazy, man. It was what's so funny is, so for some reason Korea is very popular with XRP, and I would just, whenever I would go to Korea to visit my family, I would get, people would hit me up and they want to like take me out to nice dinners and stuff. These are all like Ripple enthusiasts, right? And so I was like this, like a mini celebrity in Korea, because I was like working for Ripple at the time, and it was just kind of a crazy time.
Yeah. So I don't know, Rick. So I want to go now. So now you're leaving out of crypto at the height of its boom. Well, not the height of its boom. It's starting to shoot. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And you start this company, this knife, and you think like, I have 10,000 followers. Everybody says
where I was getting ready to go. Yeah.
Yep. Everybody says, I love, man, your product is gonna be best. Anything you do, I'm with you. And then you say, here it is, guys. And then you hear cricket.
Exactly.
Cricket. What does this does to you as somebody that's just going into the entrepreneurial sport situation? What did you learn from that whole process? That one process of having those followers, but they didn't really push your business like how you thought they would.
Yeah. So this is a great point. So what I knew from the start is, so the lesson that I learned there is that your followers aren't necessarily your customers. And as a side note to that, your friends and family are not actually your customers either. So if you ask your friends and family for advice or feedback on, what you're doing, like, unless they're actually your target audience, their feedback is going to be garbage, right?
Yeah.
So that is kind of a big lesson that I learned is that you want to get feedback from your actual customers, right? So once you start making the first few sales, then you ask them, hey, why did you purchase? I want to get to know the customers really deeply and understand their psychology behind why they bought that. And then once you start understanding that, your feedback loops really generate kind of like the direction of your company. And so that, I think, is the most important lesson I learned there, which is, your initial followers and your friends and family don't really count towards, building out that product that you have. So,
Yeah. I am so with you on that. It's we've experienced that time and time again. And it's so funny when we're meeting other people that are like new into this entrepreneurial journey, and their first thing is like, "Oh yeah, I have 2,000 followers, and I give everyone give me $1, then that's $2,000." Yeah, you're not getting $1 from your followers or friends on Facebook. It's like it's just reality, but
it's a reality.
That is one of the biggest shocks, because we hold these platforms so dear to our heart as though it's a real transactional person, and they serve a purpose, right? They serve a purpose, but the purpose is not for you to make money. That's not your customer. That's not your target audience base. And like you said, I loved how you said, hey, you know what? After you started getting some purchases, you really start to dissect it and dive deeper and really find out, yeah, you purchased it, but why did you really purchase it? Like, what was it that drew you to saying that you need this product? And my question is with that, as you started seeing your customer base more and more, were you even more shocked? I know it didn't happen overnight when you realized the family, they're just fans. The Instagram people, they're just fans. They're not, they're not paying people. They're just fans, right? And you started seeing more and more people purchase, and you start analyzing, I don't know any of these people, right? Like,
right.
How did you really start, when you start realizing that, how did you start capitalizing off of just going into quote unquote untapped market, but it's a new target audience that you never thought that was going to be that target audience of yours?
Yeah. So I actually did something that I encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to do, which is I had this concept of this shop, so this everyday carry shop, and I knew there was a community behind it because there's Reddit groups that are very popular. It's just there's a cult-like following for people looking into what other people are carrying on a daily basis. So I knew there was a community, but I just didn't know if there was enough of a market to really build something out of that. But so what I did was I actually bought products off of Amazon and I actually resold them at cost. So I didn't make any money on them.
Yeah.
But I was able to validate the idea that at least people are, interested in this concept of this shop that's only dedicated to everyday carry. And so I did that first. And then once that got going, then I started reaching out to different makers and started collaborating with them. And, I was able to build out a line of products that, based on feedback from customers. So that's kind of how it first began, which is, you should try to validate your ideas as cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
And then once you find something that works, then you kind of double down on that and grow from there.
Yeah. I love, man. I love the fact that you didn't just say, okay, because some people, because they have the 10,000 follower, they have this kind of follower, and the first resistance they get, drop it. A Ripple, can you please hire me back? Remember, I'm the one that wrote that one code that saved the day, like kind of thing. Like, but you said, okay, let me go and, like Ricky said, to the on top market, and let me figure out what I need to do to bring these customers in. So now that you're bringing these customers and you're starting to see something develop and you're starting to see some cash flow coming in, how do you transition into saying, okay, now I'm a business owner. I'm seeing money. How do I make decisions with the money coming in, what I'm spending on, and how do I collectively, because just like in the world of finance, granted you were in finance before, those regulations, you have taxes, you have all these different things. How do you put that together to make your business successful?
Yeah. So once you get some cash flow going, it's really about return on investment. So I didn't pay myself for the longest time, right? And it's you really can't. So, a lot of people go into this business thinking, oh, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to make a lot of money. Well, the truth is you don't make a lot of money for many, many years if you want your business to grow.
Yes.
And so when the cash started flowing in, I just kept reinvesting. So, I would reach out to other makers and they, buy inventory, or I would take that money and put it into advertising or whatever needed to happen to make it's a marketplace, right? So you have buyers and sellers. And so whichever side of the equation needed more of a boost, I would put money in that area. And so, that's kind of,
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. It's so crazy. So now I want to know this, right? Are you saving did you save a substantial amount of money from Ripple that you're saying, I don't take a paycheck for a couple of years? How do you pay your rent? Are you still sleeping on that blow up mattress hurting your back?
I don't know if your wife wants to get on that.
Right? Did your wife at this time? Do you have your wife? What's happening in your life in that aspect? Because that's a very stressful place to be when you're not getting paid on the 1st and the 15th to sustain your lifestyle, and you still have bills on that side. What did you do previously, and what are you doing in the then and now to make sure that your lifestyle is maintainable?
Hey, you're listening to the Success Journey Show. Just a reminder, follow us on our social media at The Success Journey Show on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Also, you can check us out on our website at thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, so great question. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it's the scariest step for them, right? It's like, all right, well, I basically, as long as I check the boxes, go to work, I'm going to get my paycheck every 2 weeks, right? So for me, I always knew I was going to start something on my own. And so I kind of had that, I guess, like an emergency fund, just kind of kept saving and saving because I knew eventually I was going to make the jump, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of, that was important to have. So I think for those who are listening now, I think it's really important to have a long-term vision of your life and your goals. And if that vision includes you having and owning a successful business, then, you got to start today. You got to start right now, like save up some money, whatever you need to do. You need to move to a cheaper place to live, like whatever you need. You gotta take those actions or at least start planning for that now, because each day, compounds, right? So yeah, I had some funds that I saved up over time. So that was useful to have, but at the same time, not having that paycheck coming in, it's a huge motivator, right? So I was like working like crazy hours. Honestly, my wife, she had just moved to San Francisco, and we were dating at the time, so we weren't married yet. But she was like, so like I was like working on Friday night and Saturday night, and she'd be like, "I just moved to this new city. Like, can we go out to eat something nice or something?" And I felt really bad, but I was just so like motivated and driven because it lights a fire underneath your butt. Like you have to get this going, and so yeah.
That's what Kiyosaki said. Kiyosaki said that. Robert Kiyosaki, I don't know if you read his book, he talked about that. He said a lot of times that 9 to 5, when you're trying to be an entrepreneur, it's like a crutch.
I totally agree.
Sometimes you have to let that 9 to 5 go because now you kill what you eat, what you kill kind of thing, like, and it lights that fire under your butt. So definitely thank you, listeners. If you're listening out there, I'm not telling you that you need to quit your job tomorrow because he did say the one thing he prefaced and said is that you have to have a substantial amount of money. So some people I know, they paid their rent for a year, or they know they have their rent for at least 2 years. And they say, Everything else they'll figure out, but as long as they have a roof over their head, they'll pay their rent for the year, and then they'll just try to hustle the whatever, eat, lights, whatever the situation is. So I love those entrepreneur stories, because later on down the road, that's the one that people are going to want to hear. Like, yo, tell me that story again. The time you were sleeping on an air mattress and you saw Coolio singing.
Oh, right.
So when you're looking at e-commerce, man, it really is and tell us a little bit more kind of behind the scenes on e-commerce, right? And what my question is, a lot of people, they say, oh, I'm going to sell something online, right? The online store, and whether it be T-shirts, whether it be other commodities, whatever it may be, and they get a website, right? Whether it be a Shopify, a Wix, or whatever it may be that they can have their product sell on. And then that's it, right? They maybe do a couple of ads here and there, right? But that's it. They're like, oh man, how do I get my product out there? No one's buying my stuff. No one sees my stuff. What are some strategies that you have used? And I'm not actually going to give the whole, IT, away to people, but, just different strategies or tools or resources that you use to really like master the space of e-commerce so that you can be successful in this space.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I always like to start with the audience first. And so you go to the community wherever, for me, it was the everyday carrier community. And so just start talking to them like, hey, what are some pain points that you have? How can I help you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve? And what's surprising about that is that people kept giving me feedback saying, hey, I see all this cool stuff on Instagram, but I don't know where to find them. It's a lot of these smaller makers. I don't really know. I wish there was like a place that aggregated everything into one place. And so I got that signal many times, right? And so you start with your audience and you figure out what they're looking for. And then you build a product. And for me, it's the product itself is the vehicle for these people who are enthusiastic about everyday carry gear to be able to go in and see, all the stuff in one place and be able to acquire them. Because in the EDC space, it's sometimes very difficult to find that one item. It's like a collectible item. So by working with makers and building up those relationships, I was able to first, build out that, I guess, solve that problem for a lot of these customers. And then once we started doing that, then we reinvested back into the business based on feedback. We were able to leverage our position in the market, and we actually went to other designers, like, hired more well-known designers. And for example, we went to one knife designer in particular. He's like a world famous designer. He designs for all sorts of crazy companies. And he was willing to take a chance and work with us because of our reputation in the market. And so we work with him, and now that product is our number one best-selling product. And so, we made that knife in conjunction with the designer. And so you can't, now we're producing our own products, and this is our number one seller. We can't keep it in stock. It just sells out, right? So I guess it really comes down to, starting with the audience, find out what the problem points are, and I guess solve it for them, and then really double down on the feedback that you get. I mean, the customers your customers should be like just super fans of your shop. I mean, we run a Net Promoter Score, NPS, and like the feedback that we constantly get is like, oh, we love your shop. It's like, every Wednesday we do a gear drop. So all the new stuff goes in and things sell out really fast. And so these people get an adrenaline rush each Wednesday they go in there, and then like things sell out within like a minute. They have to like quickly try to like buy something before it sells out. And so, so I guess start with the audience, and then whatever product you're building, think about supply and demand. And so it's always better to work with, it's always better to have less supply. Generating demand is a lot harder than having limited supply. And so start with a small amount and see how it goes. If it sells out, that's awesome. That's a good problem to have. You don't want to have stock that just sits for a while. And so, like I said, generating demand is so much harder than the supply side. So if you can constrain supply, then you're actually meeting the market with its demand. But now you have this additional layer of like, oh, it's going to sell out again. I got to go buy it. And so we were able to, with this weekly gear drop system, we were able to generate this hype where it's like, oh, if you don't buy it on Wednesday, like you may not be able to buy it again. And so that kind of drives this hype each week. And so one other really important, I guess, concept is this thing called the 20-mile march. And the 20-mile march is something that it's like an action, or like for us, it's the weekly gear drop for Urban EDC, where it's something that you can control. And it's something that you must do each week. So, you can't miss a single week where, it keeps you accountable. So each week we have our gear drop and then we improve from that. And so we haven't missed a gear drop in 5, 6, 7 years now. And that's allowed us to really, even in days or weeks where we don't get a lot of inventory, we still do the email and the gear drops just so that we can get into people's, their minds, oh, we have something exciting each Wednesday. And so when you have that anticipation built up each Wednesday, they keep coming back to you. And so having some kind of, a gear drop or some event each week has really kept us accountable, and also been able to drive this kind of, behavior in our customers. Yeah.
Man. So I'm thinking now about because you said that, I'm thinking about brands that follow that model, right? So of course, Sony PlayStation 5, you can't get it. You can't just walk into a Walmart or a Target and get it today. So people are always, I even messed up the other day because I'm in the military. I was on the military, on the base, and I saw it and I was like, they're like, oh, you could buy 2. And when I left, I was like, man, I could have bought 2 and doubled my money just because at Christmas time, that's how crazy it goes. Then I'm looking at Jordans. Jordans, certain ones would be in the store, but when he drops certain ones, you gotta buy it right away. And people are constantly checking whatever medium he uses to push out that thing. Even people are staying up late at night, billing bots to try to buy it offline and stuff. So I'm definitely understanding, because Ricky and I had a different concept because we have a product that we're selling. And our biggest thing was we don't want the demand to be there and not have the product. I don't know if you're thinking about that, Rick, how we're we rather have the product and make sure that if somebody buys today, they can get it today. I don't know if that came in your mind.
No, that didn't come in my mind. It was more so, in that regards, in particular, to answer that directly, it depends on the platform, right? So if I'm on selling on Amazon, I need to make sure I have a certain supply chain to Amazon. I never run out, right? If I'm selling on independent, which we're going to start off doing, then I can have orders come in all day and tell them, hey, it'll be shipped with and 15 days or 10 days or whatever it may be when I get the product in. So I wasn't too worried about it on that side. I think one of the biggest things, I don't want to push over, we'll pass it too fast, because I think it's just a critical area that a lot of people overlook. And I think it is the most necessary step in the whole process. And you mentioned it. And that is finding out what your customers want. Right? That is how simple as it sounds.
Customer development.
That customer discovery
Discovery, yeah.
is overlooked so much. And then people have a product and they're trying to figure out how to sell it when they never really talk to their customer as to what it is that they actually want. And Yong-Soo, like, you can correct me on this in terms of how many people you talk to, but I can almost guarantee that it's an evolving process. Like, even now, you've got your database of people and what they want, but even now, you're still listening to your customer as they're saying, hey, maybe I need to do this a little bit more. Maybe I need to do that a little bit more. And you're constantly evolving that based on that customer feedback, so that you can get those responses of like, oh man, every time I come to your site, everything I wanted. Yeah, but you told me what you wanted, right? And versus the other way around, where you was like, oh man, I figured it out. I know what they want. Let me just put it together, and I can do a great job putting it together. And then you have something that's sitting on the shelf, right? And I think that's one of the most common mistakes a lot of people make. But I think they make it because it's such a simple thing to do that people just don't believe that that's like the remedy for it. Like, what gave you that insight to really make sure you spent time in that area of finding out what your customer wanted?
Yeah. So it's surprising how simple that is, right? But it really is. I honestly think that it's about ego. So when you start a company, people want to be like, oh, I'm a startup founder. I can go to these events now and wear my shirt or whatever, right? People get wrapped up in this idea of like, wow, I made it. I have a company now. I can say that, right? And like you work on your branding, like your merch and all this stuff. But then in reality, like none of that matters. None of that matters. And what you really want to do is like, just go out and talk to customers. I mean, that is like frightening for a lot of people, because they might get their egos hurt, right? It's like, oh, I have this awesome idea. I want to do this. And then, first 5 people they talk to are like, I don't care about, like, why, like, there's no reason for you to make that. Like, I don't care, right? And so now you've got all these shirts and brand and logos. You built a website, a couple $1,000s or whatever. And then now it's like, wait, I spent all this money and now nobody wants it. Like, how dare they not want it, right? It's like, this is my thing. So I really think that it all comes from like the ego side, and the best way to build a company is really like destroy your ego and your own like, oh, I'm so cool. Like, I have a company, and just focus on the customer. And that will solve like probably 80% of the issues in the beginning, I would say, like when you're first figuring things out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nah, I love it. I love it. Yeah. So podcast, right? You like, hey, I'm getting to this point. There are a lot of people. Go ahead. You had something else before that, Marlon?
Yeah, but if you're going to segue into podcast, I wanted to talk to one more thing on the e-commerce and even your other business that you did. And I can see why you did it. And I'll go with the podcast, Rick, not his podcast, but our podcast. As a result, when people see our podcast, they see running for 4 years. Everybody says, I want a podcast. There's a lot of people that start with us that are not here today because they don't understand what happens in the back. They turn on YouTube and they see us 3 on the screen and we're talking and they're like, oh man, those guys look like they're having fun. They're talking about topics they want to talk about. I want to do just that. Same thing with the e-commerce. I see that you did a third party for the logistics, and I understand, being military, I understand that logistics is what drives a big portion of any company.
Right.
I don't know if my assumption is right, but talk about that third party logistics company that you have that tied in with the e-commerce before we jump into the podcast.
So we used a third-party logistics company for our e-commerce brand, Urban EDC, in the earlier stages of the company, and we actually had a lot of issues. Like, we had $5,000 worth of goods that went missing, and we had another instance where literally, like, the customer would email me and say, hey, I received a box, but there's nothing inside. And I'm like, what? There's nothing inside? And so I would check, and it turns out that, whoever was shipping out packages that day, like it was his last day there at the company, and he just pocketed, a $500 knife, right? And so it was, I had a lot of issues with that service. And what's funny is I did a lot of research before I went with this provider, and they were the best one. They had the highest ratings. And so I'm thinking like, all right, these guys have the best ratings, and this is the level of, the bar, right? This is the bar. I mean, it's pretty low, right? So I decided to take it in-house. So all the fulfillment that we were doing, we brought it in-house. And then that's when our dog boutique business started ramping up. And so it's kind of convenient as like all the back-end stuff is the same. And the front end is obviously different with the websites and stuff, but the back-end operations is all the same. Right? So we were doing that. And then a lot of people were asking, like, who's doing your fulfillment? Because, fulfillment is such a pain point for me. And so we were just like, hey, we're doing our own. And honestly, we were kind of like, we had clients coming to us, like we didn't even have a name. We didn't have a website, and we had clients paying us for the service. Right. So if you think about that, what we talked about just before, I mean, we literally didn't have a website. We didn't have a company name. We didn't have a logo, and we already have paying clients. And so that's when we're like, all right, we have enough people. Let's make this a real thing. And so that's when GrowthJet was born, which is our climate neutral certified 3PL. And so that's kind of how that turned out in terms of like how it began. And honestly, it's a great lesson for, kind of like we got validation from the market real fast with this one, right? So we knew there was going to be demand. So we decided to build it out.
Rick, we could attest to that. Somebody sees us, hey, you edit, who's editing your stuff? We provide editing for them. We had some stuff that we had done in terms of websites. Who did that for you guys? And so we built a company, where we digitize people's platform based on people seeing the needs that we had, and somebody else saying that's our pain point. We did it too. So a lot of people don't understand. Sometimes when you have a company, something else is birthed out of it. Just because, like you said, if the bar is this low and they're a high-rated company, and you could provide so much of a better service, you could actually have the product in a box. If that is the standard, if that's the bar, exactly, just to have the product in the box, I think I can top that.
Exactly.
Right? So thank you for that. And Yong-Soo, man, I'm telling you, you guys cheated. Because dogs, everybody loves dogs, man. You put those dogs on Instagram, and it's over, man. People love dogs. But Rick, I don't want to take away from your question with the podcast.
Oh, no, it was a perfect segue, right? So you got all these things going, and now it's like, what kind of stirred up the podcast for you? Was it a series of people asking questions, a lot of questions, and you're like, well, man, I've gone through this journey now. Like, I may not know everything, but I know a lot more than what John is asking me, what Sarah is asking me, and maybe more people want to hear more information about me. And I'm just speculating as I'm, just going through it. But tell us the generation of the podcast, and tell us a little bit what it focuses on.
Yeah. So the podcast really came out of, I had all these ideas and thoughts that I wanted to, I guess, put out into the world. But I didn't know the right medium for it. And so initially, I thought about writing a blog, but I feel like blogs are pretty dead these days. People get their content elsewhere. And then I decided that podcasting was really the right medium for me, because I'm not, the whole video thing, it's a big learning curve. And so I decided just, the audio portion, just start there. And then eventually maybe we'll do video in the future. But yeah, I really wanted to get my ideas out there. And it's really a culmination of like everything that I've learned in the last 7 years. And, I read a ton of books, not just business books, but philosophy, spirituality. And it's just kind of like it all fits together. And so I wanted to share my thoughts, and I knew that, you know, people would resonate with it. And the podcast is for people who want to get to a certain stage. Like, you know, it's the podcast that I wish I had when I was starting out. And, you know, I have each episode is like 10, 15 minutes. They're pretty short. And they talk about like one specific topic. And then I try to like bring in examples from my own business to kind of show how that works. And so it's really interesting to kind of like show the behind the scenes of, you know, I'm running this company, and you get to kind of like go behind the curtain and see why I'm making certain decisions and why, you know, this specific concept or framework is why I made that decision. And so it's like a really cool real time way of like, you know, seeing, I guess, running a business in action in a way. And really, I want to provide as much value to, you know, everyone or anyone who wants to build a business. And I feel like I have, you know, I could offer them my insights, right? So that's kind of like how it came about. So the podcast is called First Class Founders. And you can go on, you know, Apple Podcasts and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, sir. I love it. I love that too. Now, your wife plays an integral part. I don't want to cut that out because we always like to talk about the support system that anyone has, because it's very important. And I wanted you to just shout out your wife and what she does. You know, even that she started out. What gave her the insight to start out the Instagram page? Spotted
Humphrey.
Spotted Humphrey. For your whole business and how she plays in your business. And putting up with you when she just working crazy hours and she want to see San Fran.
Exactly, right. So so when we were first dating, you know, I was working at Ripple, and she was actually in New York City. She was working at EY at the accounting firm, and we connected, and then we basically, when she moved here, you know, she had to put up with a lot of my crazy hours and all that stuff, and so she was able to, you know, keep me grounded in a way, because I was, you know, I go through ups and downs too, and so it's not easy being a solo founder, right? So, you know, me just by myself, I'm building this business, and you know, being able to just talk to her and just kind of lay it all out, like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. And she would just, you know, keep me grounded and like, hey, don't worry about it. Or, you know, she would provide alternative solutions to the issue. And so her perspectives are really, really important. And so, yeah, in 2018, she launched her own shop, Spotted by Humphrey. And that was kind of a, you know, play on words with our dog's name, which is Humphrey, and then his Instagram handle or TikTok handle is Spotted Humphrey. And so she does an awesome job. She creates fantastic content for our dogs, and I mean, the shop has really grown. We actually went to LA for a Shopify event where, you know, they had hired actors and actresses, and there's an entire set. And Humphrey was on the set as well. And I mean, it was just such a cool experience to be part of that. And I feel like she's really, really great with just the creative side of things, where I'm a lot more operational and like kind of like, I don't know,
engineer.
Like, exactly, engineer side. So she is really, really strong with the creative aspect, which kind of balances out really well, where, you know, we bounce ideas off of each other. Like, she'll have questions about certain things that would happen. And then, you know, I will ask her questions about, hey, how should we market this or whatever it needs to be. So yeah, it's been a great balance.
I love it. Yong-Soo, and if you can go back, the question we'd like to ask, if you can go back to that guy that was getting ready to leave Ripple in 2000, 2015, 14, 15, to start on this journey, and you had 60 seconds to pull yourself aside and just have a quick conversation, what would you say to yourself?
I mean, I was first of all, I was just gonna say, don't leave Ripple yet. Wait a few more years now. No, I think that the important thing here is really to have that courage and just trust yourself. It's going to be a long journey, and just know that as long as you stick with it and you don't give up, I mean, you can't lose until you actually throw in the towel yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can, I mean, if things aren't working, then you can scale back. But I think it's important to keep going in whatever area that you're interested in. And really, like, if you have a calling in that, whatever field you're trying to get into, then that's kind of like your God-given vocation to, you got to go out there and do it. Like it's your responsibility to put yourself out there and help people. Right. So I would say just keep going. Sometimes it'll be really tough. But you'll get through those days, and after 5-10 years, you'll look back and say, wow, like, can you believe like how much I've accomplished? And that feeling is like this so worth it, in my opinion. So
love it.
Man. Before we cut out, Rick, were any of your parents entrepreneurs or anything like that? Because that entrepreneur spirit from early I just wanted to know. I know our guests will be like, did your parents own a business, or were they just working and this came about?
So my dad is a doctor, and growing up, like, he was working at different hospitals. So he didn't own his own clinic, but now he does. But I guess that influence it didn't influence me that much because it happened so late. And my mom was a stay-at-home mother. But actually, her side of the family has a lot of entrepreneurs. And so I think it was like the genes. So even though she was not entrepreneurial, it's like her entire family is. And to be honest, I'm like very similar to my mom in a lot of ways. And so I feel like that kind of that drive and hunger for entrepreneurship kind of came through her indirectly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Love it.
This is a great episode. I from the bottom of my heart, I enjoyed talking to you, and I get to actually talk to somebody that was in the inception or conception of Ripple, and I still have Ripple till today. So hopefully, it still does good. I don't know if you have. It does good. I don't know. So
before we let you go, I just want to make sure we get. And I know we did that earlier on, but make sure you get a chance for people to be able to look you up and find you and all the different things that you're doing. So can you just share, where they can go, your website?
Yeah. So the website for the podcast is firstclassfounders.com. And then if you want to reach me directly, I'm on Twitter at Yong-Soo Chung. Yeah. I'm sure you guys will link it in the show notes and everything. So you can find it there.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you so much. And to our travelers, listeners all around the world, we just want to thank you again for tuning in to the Success Journey Show. We wouldn't be here without you. And we love you guys. We really hope that you guys are able to take this episode and apply it. Tune in to every week. We will have a special guest that comes on and just shares their journey. But until next time, we hope everyone stays well, stays blessed, stay warm, depending on where you are in the country. It's cold over here. So stay warm, and we'll see you guys next week at the same time, at the same place on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
One love.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.